Brother. So good to find you here. I need to speak to you about your tithing record. There is a large gap in your recent tithing record. If this is not rectified, then I must discipline you publicly, because you are stealing from God.
Pastor Moneylove, may I ask you a question about the tithe?
Yes. Of course. I am here to answer all of your Bible questions.
Pastor Moneylove, there are 4 separate tithes. The first tithe being the 10% tithe of agricultural produce, which was paid specifically to the tribe of Levi. Now my question is this. Did Jesus ever receive tithes as you do? Or did Jesus ever pay a tithe?
Of course. Jesus both tithed and he also received tithes, just as all true Christian pastors both receive and pay tithes today.
Well, give me a Bible verse to prove that. Okay, look. Let me first prove to you that Jesus never received a tithe. I'm speaking only about the first of 4 tithes, by the way, the Levitical tithe. This first tithe was specifically agricultural produce. Leviticus 27:30 and Deuteronomy 14:22. It was to be paid only to the tribe of Levi. Nehemiah 13:5. Now Jesus was of the tribe of Judah, and not Levi. Matthew 1:3. So not being of the tribe of Levi, he could not receive the tithe. If he had received the Levitical tithe, then he would have been a thief, and consequently a sinner. Now if I'm wrong, then give me a Bible verse where Jesus received a tithe.
I think that you're being a little bit prideful about this. We don't need to be too pedantic about this sort of thing. Jesus during his ministry had a common bag. So people, I guess, must have been tithing to him. Just accept this explanation. I'm a minister, trust me. I've got a Bible diploma.
No. People gave Jesus free will offerings during his ministry, not a tithe. Only the tribe of Levi received a tithe. Let me quote Nehemiah 13:5 again. The tithes of grain, the new wine and oil, which were commanded to be given to the Levites. Now Pastor Moneylove, was Jesus of the tribe of Levi?
I can see a root of bitterness in you. Pride and unrepentance has overtaken you. You need to humble yourself and then submit to me by tithing.
Answer my question, and stop this nonsense about bitterness. Was Jesus of the tribe of Levi?
I am not here to debate. Debate is a sin. You are a bitter man, unrepentant, and full of unforgiveness.
Was Jesus of the tribe of Levi?
No.
Fine. So we now agree that Jesus was not of the tribe of Levi. He was of Judah, according to Matthew chapter 1 verse 3. However, let me quote Nehemiah 13:5 again. The tithes of grain, the new wine and oil, which were commanded to be given to the Levites. Now, does this verse state that only the tribe of Levi received the first of the 4 tithes, the 10% Levitical tithe? Or could anyone receive this tithe?
What's your point?
I'll quote Nehemiah 13:5 again. The tithes of grain, the new wine and oil, which were commanded to be given to the Levites. Does this verse prove that only the tribe of Levi received the first of these 4 tithes, the 10% Levitical tithe? Or could anyone receive it?
Okay, I guess, possibly the Levites received this tithe. What's your point?
Well, as we now agree that only the Levites received this tithe, why do you ask people to pay you this 10% Levitical tithe? Are you of the tribe of Levi? As we now agree that Jesus never received this tithe, then why should you receive it? It was ordained only for the Levites. If you ask people to tithe to you, or to you via your church, then you are simply a thief. Jesus never received this tithe, so why do you receive it? Let's now deal with the second part. During Jesus' ministry, he told us that he owned no property when he said, "Foxes have holes, and the birds of the air have nests, but the Son of Man has nowhere to lay his head." Matthew 8:20 and Luke 9:58. So Jesus owned no property during his ministry. Would you agree? It would be hypocritical of Jesus to tell people, such as the rich young ruler, to give all his property to the poor, if he, Jesus, had not done exactly the very same thing himself. So Jesus owned no property. Can we agree on that?
Okay, Jesus owned no property. But what's your point? I see no purpose in this conversation. You are filled with an unrepentant attitude and with bitterness.
Here's my point. Remember Nehemiah 13:5. The tithe was not money, it was agricultural produce. Listen to this verse. The tithes of grain, the new wine and oil, which were commanded to be given to the Levites. Also every 10th animal was also to be included. And this tithe wasn't paid every year, it was only paid during the first 6 years of a 7-year cycle. So only the landowners pay the tithe. If you were a merchant, a soldier, a farm laborer who worked for a wage, or a tradesman such as a blacksmith or a carpenter, then you did not qualify to pay this tithe. Unless you had a fruit tree or small garden in which you grew vegetables and you then tithed from that produce. So during Jesus' ministry, according to Matthew 8:20, he never paid a tithe. So why then should I pay a tithe, when Jesus himself did not pay it?
This is wicked. You must support my ministry. Paul talked about Christians giving to support the church.
Ah, now that's a totally different context and situation. Of course I am in favor of giving to support the church. However, my point isn't related to giving. I am only trying to prove that church members such as myself are not obliged to pay the Levitical tithe. Did you know that not one Jewish group worldwide, from the most ultra-Orthodox to the most liberal Jew, pays this Levitical tithe today? The Jews aren't as stupid and biblically illiterate as so many evangelical Christians. The Jews know that this first of the 4 tithes was only to be paid to the tribe of Levi, who would then place this tithe in one of the 49 storehouses, which were situated in the 48 Levitical cities, or in the temple storehouse. But as we don't have a distinct tribe of Levi today, or 48 Levitical cities, then this tithe cannot be paid today. But pastors like you money love, use the principle of the tithe to steal money from your dumbed-down flock. During his ministry, Jesus never paid a tithe, and during his lifetime he never received a tithe. I am not a landowner. I do not own more than 10 sheep or 10 goats. I do not even own an apple tree with more than 10 apples. So the tithe does not apply to me. I do not have to pay it. Some evangelical preachers today are devious salesmen, who fleece their flocks of money in order to enrich themselves with ever-increasing salaries, parsonages and more associate pastors, pastoral assistants and office staff who do most of their designated work. Very little money going to some TV preachers actually goes to the poor. So most money pays for larger buildings, which they refuse to share with other Christians, salaries and expenses, and very little money actually goes to the poor or to evangelism. The world looks with disgust at evangelical Christianity. Pastors like you money love are often poorly educated men with a superficial biblical understanding who steal money from your flock.
How dare you? I am a man of God. I also have a Bible diploma, which you don't have. I am an educated man of God.
You are correct. I don't have an unaccredited Bible diploma like you, which you got by paying a Mickey Mouse correspondence course $1,000. But if you were to pay them $10,000, then they'd award you a supposed doctorate, and you could then call yourself Dr. Moneylove. I actually have a very good divinity degree, as well as a postgraduate qualification from top British universities. I also know that you used to sell insurance, until you realized that there was far more money to be made by selling religion. You remind me of Tetzel, who raised money by selling indulgences, that is the forgiveness of sins, to the gullible in the 16th century, in order to raise money for rebuilding St. Peter's Cathedral, the Vatican. But he only fleeced people once, before he then moved on to other cities. You are far more effective than Tetzel, for you rob the poor by direct debit, every month, over and over again.
Video by Robert Skinner.